I am getting comfortable with rejection, with failure, with doing things in new ways that are outside my comfort zone. I am seeing if there might be a different path. I am acknowledging that just because I've always done it a certain way doesn't mean it's the only way. In recent videos, you guys might have heard me hinting at the fact that I was kind of changing my direction as an artist. For those of you who are new here, I'm a commercial illustrator and have done so for the past 10 or 12 years. I can't really remember how long it's been. But for some reason, this year I really felt like I wanted to change how I'm working, the mediums I'm working in, and what I'm trying to achieve with my creations. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about what I've experienced so far this year in my quest to become a real artist. Now, I should disclaimer this with, I don't want to belittle the work of illustrators or make us feel like what we do is less than. My first love will always reside in a beautifully drawn picture of a horse, basically. But what I have been trying to do this year is produce work for myself, by myself, to work in more analog mediums, to challenge the way that I'm working, and to push pieces into more of a finished place rather than just a sketch or study place. And this has seen a lot of do-overs and setbacks. But as I'm trying to build a body of work that is intentional and considered, and also to build a technical skill that I don't have, I've been learning a few things along the way, and I wanted to share those with you. The first is about getting comfortable with being told no. I remember hearing this from one of my friends who was an aspiring actor. Her father was a successful actor, and I remember her relating that he'd told her, you have to get cool with being told no. It's just part of the job, and every time you get told no, you're getting closer to the one where you get told yes. So far this year, I've applied for residencies, grants, art competitions, and I've had no on pretty much all fronts. But I'm trying to see this as affirmation and proof that I'm on the outer limits of my capacity, that I'm trying to grow and I'm trying to move into a place that is new and unfamiliar for me, and that it's okay to hear no. I'll just have to work harder next time. And I do really have to acknowledge that each time I've applied for one of these things, I've really pushed myself to create good work. So I'm really proud of the work that I've done, even if it doesn't meet the standard for what I'm trying to do. I should caveat all this by saying, by nature, I'm a completely uncompetitive person. So doing things like entering art prizes or art competitions has always just turned me right off. So I'm trying to kind of challenge that part of my personality and just be cool with being a little bit competitive with trying to get out there. I mean, art is such a difficult thing to be competitive within because it's so individual. And the other little bits of advice that I wanted to share actually came from a recent local arts meetup, which was really cool. We got to speak to some gallery directors and curators and some folks that work for the local arts industry, I guess. And one of the big takeaways that I got from those conversations was you just have to try and be as consistent as possible. They were saying that when you're applying for stuff like grants or residencies or even group exhibition, EOIs, stuff like that, the people that are judging these things really like to see a consistent output of work and consistently exhibiting and getting involved as much as you can. I know it's hard. It's one of those things where people say, oh, to get this job, you need experience, but where do I get the experience from? Same kind of deal, right? We'd like to see you exhibiting consistently, but that's what you're trying to do. So I guess you've got to kind of make your own breaks there, even if it's just in local cafes, small galleries. They were talking about, just trying to be creative with getting your foot in the door and getting your consistent work out there into the world. Another little eye-opener for me in those conversations was harking back to something that I said earlier in this video about maybe I have an issue with seeing my illustration work as less legitimate than the art that I see in galleries. I kind of raised this a little bit with one of the women that I spoke to, a sense that I existed outside of what could be considered fine art and feeling a bit like an outsider in the creative community because I work commercially and I do a lot of work that comes from other people's requests, as a commercial illustrator. And what she said to me was, you're not the first to monetize your work as an artist, and there's nothing wrong with that. Hell, that's what we're all trying to do, is make a living out of this, if that's what we want to do. She referenced Ken Doan, who is an iconic Australian artist who has pretty much slapped his work on anything from tea towels to t-shirts to swimwear. He does stand out as one of the most iconic Australian artists, and it sort of struck me that I'd never really compared my work to him or thought about myself as a commercial artist and him as a commercial artist. I just never made the connection, probably because his work is so iconic and so huge. But it made me feel a little bit better because I have been in conversations with artists where they were like, oh, the only advice I can give you is don't put your work on tea towels, or don't, devalue your work by making it accessible. That was kind of contrary to what a lot of the women were saying. And they were all women, all the curators and directors, which was pretty cool. They were all just saying, when you come to exhibit in our galleries, we'd love it if you have stuff at different price points, accessible things, prints, stickers, all that stuff. There was no sense of them saying that devalues your work. And my last little bit of advice that I picked up during this arts day was to appreciate what you've got, the standing that you've already got. I mentioned in one of the conversations that I already had sort of running clients that were recurring throughout the year. And she pointed out to me that a lot of the local artists where I'm from would be stoked to have a market for their art, to have a place where they could monetize it and make a consistent income, which made me realize, we get used to what we're doing. We get used to what we've done. In the pursuit of bigger and more exciting things, don't lose sight of the progress that you've already made and the ground that you've already covered. All right, I think that's my little rundown on art advice for this week. I guess it's time to get back in there and keep practicing. Thanks for being here.